Hi, this video is intended just to give you a few tips on narrowing your topic so that you're not taking on too big of a topic for a paper that needs to be pretty concise and very narrow and directed. So what I've got here is a chart that, I'm going to talk you guys through it a little bit. I have here in the red category things that won't work, and then it goes on to sort of improving the main, like the first idea, like your initial idea as a research question or a tentative thesis. Um, and then towards the end, you get something that's a lot more specific. So the first thing I want to point out is that these different categories, I do explain kind of why the larger thesis won't work. But we're going to go through them a little bit more just to kind of make sure that it's clear. So in the first category, what you generally tend to have are ideas that are either just way too broad for a paper of this length. This is about 4 pages, right? And 4 pages double spaced. So the writer has either attempted to prove an unapprovable opinion in the case of like World War Z is the best movie ever. That's just too subjective. You can't prove that. There's nothing to argue here because it's just a matter of taste, right? Or someone has attempted to sort of quote unquote prove a fact, yeah? Um, the one that I see the most often in that category would be diet and exercise are vital to good health. That's kind of just something people know, you know what I mean? So you don't need to explain it or argue it. So it won't work for both a research paper and an argument paper. It wouldn't work for either. And if you're looking at how an engine works, again, this is something that's just sort of a provable fact. Like it's just how it is. So there's nothing really to debate. It might work for a research paper, but not for an argument paper. And even if it did work for a research paper, it's a little bit something that you wouldn't expect to see a research paper written on because it's something you'd expect to see like a technical manual written on. So again, it's just not, it's more of a known fact. If we go over to the purple category, we have the topic is still too broad. That just means that there's just too much to discuss. It's something that people have very volatile opinions on, or it's a very big topic, something that you might expect to see pages and pages. You know, if you went to the library and searched for books on something that's a really big ticket item like universal health care, you're going to find hundreds of books written on that. And that's just not something that you can adequately get into enough detail to address in just 4 pages. It's just too much information. So you can talk about an aspect of it or an angle of it, right? A part of the whole, not the whole thing. So in this case, we do have, in addition to things being too broad, it can also be too narrow if it's something that's too subjective potentially, or just someone is trying to narrow down too much, which isn't usually the problem I see. I usually see people taking on too big of a topic for such a short paper. You may also have someone trying to prove an opinion, a subjective opinion, by rephrasing it. So in the case of World War Z is thrilling because of its exciting plot. This is circular reasoning because the words thrilling and exciting are synonyms. So it's thrilling because it's exciting because it's thrilling, if that makes sense. The writer may also try to make a known fact sound more dramatic. So you have down here I've got socialism is bad for society as the first claim, and then you have someone trying to make it sound more subjective, or like more like there's an argument there by saying although it has good points, socialism is damaging for society. So it's the same point. I just added a little bit of waffling language here. And actually the second one is more work for you. It's a bigger topic because in the first one the writer only had to prove that it was bad, but here now they also have to take into account it is good points. So that's more work. It's going to be a more out of like beyond the scope of a length of a 4 page paper kind of thing. Yeah. If we're looking at the needs work but it's better, it's still a little too broad, or it's something that's so peculiar that you wouldn't actually be able to research it carefully in the amount of time you have to do the research. So the topic also could be sufficiently narrow but leave the reader wondering like, okay, so why are you gonna what's new here? What are you telling me about this? So that's where you're actually getting into a place where someone can engage with you though. So the blue category is better. So first, let's say we have World War Z is the first movie to depict zombies as fast-moving, mindless predators. So that's really specific. It's not true, but it's specific. And the reader might be like, and what do you want to tell me about this? Why does this matter? The same thing is the case for some mechanics have a hard time working with hybrid engines. The reader might go, well, so what? Maybe those mechanics need to go get a certification or something, right? Here we have low carb diets are great for weight loss, great for cholesterol levels, and great for the heart. This is one of those cases where you can see that it's like kind of a known fact, but they're trying to make it sound more dramatic, and it's a little bit too narrow, right? In this case, because it's going to be just a sort of cheerleader paper saying how great low carb diets are. And here, we completely switched gears to the publicly funded ambulance system in South Korea as an example of socialism that helps society, which a little broad, right? But it's still kind of, it's a lot better. There's something you can chew on there and you can discuss it. And if we get to the green category, what we have here are things that are the right length or the right level of complexity for a paper of the length that you are writing. And it's something that you can do the research on in the time that you have, right? An example of something that you wouldn't be able to necessarily do the research on would be if you needed to poll people, like go around and do like polling, or if the information was like very difficult to find. So here we have a theorist being brought in, right? So we've gone from World War Z is the best movie ever to monster theory guru Jeffrey Jerome Cohen proposes that monsters act as metaphors to discuss cultural anxieties. So now we're going to be looking at a specific angle of why we should care about the fast moving, disease spreading zombies in the film World War Z, and how specifically they speak to the dichotomous nature of FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So this is, it's a little bit intriguing. You're not quite sure probably what this paper is going to discuss, but it is definitely specific. And it's so specific that it's something that would be like a 4 to 5 page paper. Down here, we have from mechanics, some mechanics have a hard time working with hybrid engines, to the more specific mechanics who try to fit up hybrid engines for racing are running into 3 problems: the battery, the fuel injectors, and the driver. This is something you can specifically talk about, and this is actually a research topic that could easily become an argumentative topic, because you would just add in some kind of policy claim, like, and so the drivers need more training or something like that. Down here, we have something that could work again for either a research paper or an argumentative paper. Low carb diets are great for weight loss, great for cholesterol levels, and great for the heart. However, they're quietly wreaking havoc on the kidneys. So in this case, you would add in something like, and so they should be treated with moderation. That's an argument for this kind of a topic. And then for the publicly funded ambulance system, we have the publicly funded ambulance system in South Korea should be adopted in New Mexico to make healthcare more accessible, especially to rural residents and elderly citizens. So that takes this from being something that's kind of well, so what? What do you want me to do with this information? To being, and which this would work as like a broad research topic. And then this would be the argumentative topic, because you're trying to talk about something that we could institute, like a claim of policy, a policy change that we could have here in New Mexico to help with some of the problems that we run into. So there's another example down here about taking from James Cameron as a hack all the way up to some pretty interesting like intellectual moves through here. But hopefully this is helpful for thinking about why it's important to narrow down a topic. One thing that you might want to think about when you are trying to decide on if your topic is narrow enough is to ask yourself, if somebody really disagreed with me on something, like if someone was just diametrically opposed to, for example, they hated this movie, right? Would you be able to change their mind about it completely? Would you be able to get somebody all the way from I hate this movie to I love this movie, it is the best movie ever, in 4 pages? You would not. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't be able to convince somebody of that. I don't think it would be easy. But if you change the terms of your interaction with this person who is a hostile audience that don't agree, all the way to something that's just discussing an aspect of how this movie works culturally, that actually could give them an appreciation for the movie when they hated it initially. So you kind of, instead of trying to change somebody's opinion completely on a topic, think about trying to nudge them away from their certainty. That's a much more productive way to approach an argument paper. So hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions, as always, don't hesitate to ask, and I hope that you got something out of this little video.